She deserves it more, honey, my mother said, not even glancing up from the gleaming pyramid of gourmet cupcakes she was fussing over. Sabrina's always been more dedicated to her studies. You've always had other interests. The casual dismissal hit harder than a slap. I stood in my parents' kitchen, my medical school diploma still fresh in its frame, the gold seal catching the light like a joke at my expense. Mom, we both graduated with honors. We had the exact same GPA. My voice stayed even, but my fingers trembled against the cool marble. I don't understand why you and Dad would pay off all of Sabrina's loans but none of mine. Mara, my mother sighed, finally lifting her eyes with that familiar glaze of mild disappointment. Your sister doesn't have a wealthy mentor like Dr. Helena Strauss taking an interest in her future. You've always had advantages Sabrina didn't. I almost laughed. Dr. Helena Strauss wasn't a benefactor who fell from the sky. She was my research advisor because I'd earned that privilege with 80-hour weeks in the lab while Sabrina skied Aspen with our parents. My advantage was exhaustion. Sabrina's was a lifetime subscription to emotional and financial air support. So I'm being punished for finding my own mentorship opportunities? I asked, willing the raw edge out of my voice. My father entered then, slipping an arm around my mother's shoulders as if this were a cheerful family sitcom and not a slow-motion character assassination. No one's punishing you, Mara. We're just being practical. Your sister needs more help than you do. You've always been resourceful. Resourceful. The family's magic word. The one that converted neglect into a virtue. Resourceful explained why they never attended my undergraduate research presentations, but flew across the country for Sabrina's volleyball tournaments. Resourceful justified Sabrina's new car at 21 while I got a gas station gift card and a pep talk about bootstraps. Tomorrow was Sabrina's debt-free celebration, my parents' brainchild naturally. They'd invited extended family, her friends, even a handful of our former professors. The invitations read, celebrating Sabrina's achievement, as if graduating medical school without debt were an accomplishment she'd earned rather than a check our parents had written. I need to head out, I said at last, collecting my bag like a shield. Early shift at the hospital. You'll still make it to Sabrina's party? My mother asked, concern finally blooming. Not for me but for optics. It would mean a lot to her. I'll be there, I promised, even as my stomach twisted. On the way to my car my phone buzzed. A text from Dr. Strauss. Need to speak with you urgently about the Patterson Fellowship. Big news. Cold recognition washed over me. My parents' favoritism wasn't just unfair. It was about to be paraded under floodlights. And I could already feel the heat. Sabrina and I had been misaligned since the moment we arrived on Earth. I first quiet, watchful. She 6 minutes later loud, lusty, adored. In Cleveland, Sabrina was the golden twin, friends on arrival, trophies by default. I was the library rat who could chart constellations and spell zoology, backward before second grade. Our parents attended every soccer match, every dance recital. My science fair wins earned a distracted "good job, Mara," and a hair ruffle that always felt like erasing. By high school the script had calcified. When we both announced pre-med, our parents applauded. Loud for Sabrina, careful for me. Medical school isn't just about being smart, Mara, Dad warned. It's about grit. Sabrina pushes herself harder. I'd smiled then because there's nowhere to stash rage when you're still asking for rides. At Ohio State, I maintained a perfect GPA while working part-time to cover groceries and textbooks. Sabrina wrestled with organic chemistry and physics. The tutors flowed like champagne, courtesy of the Bank of Quinn. When she needed to retake the MCAT, they paid for an elite prep course in a downtown office with espresso taps. When I scored in the 98th percentile first try, they nodded. That's nice, dear. And still, I loved my sister. How could I not? She didn't engineer the hierarchy. She just grew up at the top of the staircase. Sometimes I even caught guilt flickering behind her smile, though she never named it. We both got into the same med school in Michigan and for 4 years, survived on the same coffee and adrenaline, held the same hands during brutal rotations, cried the same late-night tears. I thought maybe, finally, our parents would see us as parallel lines rather than a spotlight and its shadow. Instead, the calculus adapted. When I was selected to present research at a national conference, Sabrina conveniently received a community service award the same weekend. Guess which event our parents flew to? Everything changed in our final year. Dr. Helena Strauss, a renowned neurosurgeon with eyes like bright scalpels, noticed my work on pediatric traumatic brain injuries. Under her mentorship, I didn't just perform, I detonated. "You have a gift for research, Mara," she told me once, her tone clinical and kind. "You see patterns other people miss. That can't be taught." If only my parents could see me through her eyes. The morning before Sabrina's party, I stepped into Dr. Strauss's office. Polished wood, shelves crowded with journals, walls crowded with history. She was 60-something, silver hair pulled back with the severity of a violin string, posture so precise she made the chair look slouched. "Mara." She gestured to the seat across from her. "I have extraordinary news." My heart sprinted. I had been waiting, obsessing, over the Patterson Fellowship at Johns Hopkins, the most coveted neurosurgical research post in the country. Only one graduating medical student would get it. "The committee made their decision," she said, face unreadable for half a beat. "Forgot how to breathe. They selected you." The slightest smile angled across her mouth. "Congratulations, Dr. Mara Quinn. You're going to Baltimore." Joy crashed through me, bright, disbelieving, cleansing. "The Patterson. Mine." I swallowed uselessly. I don't know what to say." "You earned this," Dr. Strauss said, her voice the scalpel again. "Your work on neurovascular regeneration after traumatic injury is genuinely innovative. They were impressed by your dual approach, surgical strategy paired with pharmacologic intervention, and by the fact you carried a full clinical load alongside it. The fellowship included a generous stipend, a housing allowance, and holy mercy, complete loan forgiveness. I would be debt-free. Like Sabrina. Only for me, the ledger would read merit instead of mom and dad." "There's more," Dr. Strauss added, eyes flashing. "Your parents invited me to Sabrina's celebration tonight. Courtesy invitation to faculty, I assume. They don't know about our relationship. If you're comfortable, I'd like to announce the fellowship there." My stomach dropped, as if a trapdoor had opened beneath my chair. "I don't know. It's supposed to be Sabrina's night, and my parents will say I'm stealing her spotlight." "I've observed your family dynamic," she said plainly, and the room seemed to tilt toward her gravity. "Recognition sometimes has to be public to be real. If I tell them privately, they'll reframe it, call it luck, timing, charity. Public means witnessed. Witnessed means undeniable." She wasn't wrong. Left in their hands, my win would be resized like a dress they never meant me to wear. "Okay," I said, pulse in my throat. "Announce it." Outside her office, my phone pinged. From Sabrina. "Mom's going overboard for tonight. It's mortifying. Wish she put this much effort into celebrating both of us graduating. See you there." I stared at the bubbles, stunned. It was the first time she'd ever threaded our unspoken imbalance into actual words. Another ping. From my mother, "Business casual tonight, please. And let your sister have her moment. This is very important to her." 2 messages. 2 planets. 1 family. Sabrina's debt-free gala was on a downtown Detroit rooftop. My parents had rented the entire terrace because subtlety makes them break out in hives. When the elevator doors slid open, I was greeted by a vinyl banner the size of a Midwestern sky. "Congratulations, Dr. Sabrina." No mention that there were, in fact, 2 Dr. Quinns in the family now. I smoothed my navy dress, counted to 5, and stepped into the light. Sabrina spotted me within seconds, slipping free of a knot of relatives like a fish from a net. She was luminous in silver, hair cut into a sleek bob that looked editorial next to my long waves. "Thank God you're here," she whispered, looping her arm through mine. "Aunt Perla has asked me 3 times if I'm engaged to medicine or just casually seeing it." I huffed a laugh despite the tightness in my chest. "Tell her you're in an exclusive relationship with cardiology, but you're open to neurosurgeons who own dishwashers." Sabrina's smile flickered, then dimmed. "This is a lot. Mom invited half the faculty. Dean Wilson is here." She tipped her chin toward a cluster near the bar where our father was holding court. "Subtlety gives her hives," I said. Before Sabrina could reply, our mother materialized with a champagne flute and a mission. "Sabrina, the Hendersons just arrived. Thomas Henderson, chief of surgery at Cleveland Memorial. Come say hello." Her hand closed around Sabrina's wrist, her gaze flicked to me. Mara, would you check whether the caterer set out gluten-free options? Your cousin Beth is very particular. Of course, I murmured, and just like that, Sabrina was airborne and I was ground crew. I was rerouting canapes when the elevator chimed again. Dr. Helena Strauss stepped onto the terrace in a crimson pantsuit, elegance and gravity with a pulse. She moved through the crowd like a surgeon through tissue, direct, precise, inevitable. Mara, she said, embracing me lightly. Ready. As I'll ever be, I admitted, my eyes snagging on the behemoth banner. Congratulations, Dr. Sabrina. The slideshow looping photos of my twin bathed in golden light, me a recurring blur at the edge. Across the terrace, my parents were introducing Sabrina to a woman with a white pixie cut and an aura of authority I could feel from 10 feet away. That's Dr. Lin Wu, a resident hissed near my elbow. Chief of neurosurgery at Detroit Medical. Of course it was. My father's arm lifted, ushering Dr. Strauss into our orbit with the unearned confidence of a man who believes everyone is already in his. Dr. Strauss. What an honor, he boomed. I understand you've done some work with Mara. Some work, Dr. Strauss echoed, one brow aloft. Mara has been my primary research partner for 2 years. Wonderful, my mother said vaguely, pivoting back to Dr. Wu with a smile sharpened to a point. Sabrina has been deeply involved in neurosurgical research as well. It's her passion. I blinked. Sabrina's field was neuropsychiatry, adjacent, not overlapping. The lie hung in the air like perfume. How fascinating, Dr. Strauss said coolly. I was under the impression Sabrina's focus was psychiatric applications rather than surgical interventions. Silence. Sabrina's cheeks colored. My mother's smile stuttered. My father laughed too loudly. Well, the girls dabble across disciplines, he said, as if rearranging facts were a parlor trick. Dinner seating finalized the hierarchy. My parents at the head table with Sabrina, our grandparents, and Dr. Wu, while I was tucked at a satellite table with cousins and the kind of family friends who introduced themselves like LinkedIn profiles. Close enough to hear the head table's conversation, too far to enter it. We always knew Sabrina was destined for greatness, my father declared, voice carrying just enough. Even as a child, such determination. She's always been our ambitious one. Tiny knives, every word. I nudged asparagus around my plate, appetite replaced by static. Dr. Strauss, placed with other faculty, caught my eye once, her look equal parts bomb and blade. Glasses chimed, my father rose. Thank you all for coming to celebrate our daughter Sabrina's remarkable achievement. Medical school is grueling, and to emerge not only with a degree but debt-free is truly special. Applause, warm and obedient. My mother stood, joining the tableau. We've always believed in investing in Sabrina's future, she said. We knew she would make us proud. Not our daughters. Not both. Sabrina. The precision of omission was a masterclass. Actually, Sabrina said suddenly, standing so fast her chair scraped. I'd like to say something. A hush peeled over the terrace. She looked directly at me, apology naked in her face. This celebration is incomplete. Mara and I graduated with the same GPA. We worked just as hard, harder in Mara's case, because she didn't have the safety net I did. Mara, my mother hissed, as if I'd thrown my voice into Sabrina's mouth. This isn't the time. It's exactly the time, Sabrina said, steady as a metronome. I can't accept recognition that erases my twin. It's not right, and it hasn't been right for years. My throat burned. The first crack in the myth, and it came from the sun herself. My father recovered with an oily smile. Of course we're proud of both our girls, he said, voice pitched for witnesses. But tonight is about celebrating Sabrina being debt-free, which is a special achievement. An achievement you bought, Sabrina countered. Not one I earned. The terrace thrummed. Guests glanced at one another over salted rims. Somewhere a chafing dish clicked shut. If I might add something, Dr. Strauss said, rising. Her voice lanced the noise, clean and commanding. This seems an opportune moment to share news many of you aren't yet aware of. My parents' faces tightened, instinctively bracing for a storm they couldn't predict. Mara's research on neurovascular regeneration has earned her the Patterson Fellowship at Johns Hopkins, Dr. Strauss announced. For those unfamiliar, it is the most prestigious neurosurgical research position offered to a graduating medical student in the United States. Only one is selected each year. Gasps. A ripple of whispered Johns Hopkins rolling to the terrace edge and back. Dr. Wu's head tipped toward me, interest sharpening. The selection committee cited Mara's dual-approach methodology, innovative surgical strategy paired with pharmacologic intervention, developed largely independently while she balanced a full clinical load, Dr. Strauss continued. I've mentored many gifted physicians. It's rare to encounter this degree of rigor and insight in one person. Applause detonated louder, realer, aimed at me. People turned in their chairs, eyes bright and unguarded. My name surged through the room like oxygen. I hadn't realized how starved I'd been. My parents didn't clap. They looked bewildered. The script had slipped from their hands and scattered across the floor. And one more thing, Dr. Strauss added, merciless and merciful at once. Our department's merit fund will cover the remainder of Mara's medical school loans. The board approved it unanimously this afternoon. Debt-free. On merit. The word equal reassembled itself in my bones. Within minutes, the party's migratory patterns redrew. Faculty peeled away from Sabrina, vectoring toward me. Residents materialized with questions. Former supervisors shook my hand as if meeting me for the first time. Compliments shone with that particular sheen. Respect without pity, admiration without caveat. Sabrina appeared at my side, eyes glossy, smile unjealous. She clinked her glass to mine. Dr. Mara Quinn, she said like a toast and a prayer. Why didn't you tell me? I found out this morning, I said dazed. And I didn't want to steal your sky. Then let's share it, she said simply. Dr. Quinn. Dr. Lin Wu approached, her gaze resting fully on me for the first time. I'm impressed. When you've completed the Patterson, consider bringing that work to Detroit Medical. I began. She's already accepted the Patterson, Sabrina cut in, proud as a banner. It's a once-in-a-lifetime. Dr. Wu smiled, unoffended. Fortunately, lifetimes contain more than one good decision. She offered her card. Keep us in mind. She moved on. I stared at the rectangle in my hand like it was an alternate universe printed on 14-point cardstock. Across the terrace, my parents finally peeled themselves from the head table and began moving toward us, smiles stapled on, stopping and starting as guests intercepted them to talk about me like I was news. Sabrina squeezed my fingers. Here they come, she murmured. Ready. Not even close. But I lifted my chin anyway. They reached us wearing smiles that didn't touch their eyes. My father extended his hand like we were acquaintances being introduced at a fundraiser. Dr. Quinn, he said carefully, as if the title might bite. Dr. Strauss had some impressive things to say. The Patterson Fellowship, that's quite an honor. Why didn't you tell us you were even being considered? My mother added, her tone feathered with hurt and accusation, like she was auditioning for concerned parent number one. Would it have mattered? I asked softly. You've made it clear where your interest lies. They exchanged a look that was equal parts panic and choreography. That's not fair, Dad began. We've supported you both, Mom cut in, quick as a tourniquet. Differently. Sabrina exhaled, the sound of a fuse finally catching. Not this tonight, she said, low and steady. But we are going to talk. All of us. No more pretending. Dr. Strauss appeared at my elbow then. A perfectly timed rescue. Mara, Dean Wilson would like a word about featuring the fellowship in the alumni magazine. She smiled at my parents, polite, surgical. You must be very proud. Recognition, properly witnessed, has a way of clarifying what was always true. If there was a gentler way to say you missed it until the room applauded, I couldn't imagine it. The rest of the evening cleaved in two. On one side, my parents' curated narrative leaking at the seams. On the other, the sound of my name spoken like something earned. Faculty drifted over. Residents asked for PDFs of my paper. Even the violinist paused between songs to whisper congrats. Doctor like a blessing. Sabrina stuck to my side. A silver satellite with a steady orbit, deflecting any relative who tried to pivot the spotlight back to our Sabrina's moment. An hour later, when I finally slipped outside the terrace's glass rail to breathe, Detroit winked beneath us. Streetlights, taillights, a necklace of moving stars. Sabrina joined me, pressing a cool flute into my hand. You okay? She asked. I think so, I said. I didn't know my lungs could hold that much relief. She laughed, then sobered. I should have spoken sooner. You did tonight, I said. That counted. We clinked glasses. For the first time in years, the toast felt level. They came to my apartment the next day with gift bags and a script. My father set a small box on the coffee table with ceremony. We thought, with both of you graduating, we should get you something special. Inside, a rose gold watch, the same model they'd given Sabrina for her birthday 6 months earlier. Equal on delay. It's lovely, I said without touching it, though a bit late. My mother flinched. Mara, if you felt overlooked. I was overlooked, I said, gentle as a scalpel. You attended Sabrina's presentations, not mine. You paid for her MCAT course and told me to use free resources. You covered her living expenses during med school and told me to take out more loans. We only have so much money, Dad protested. We had to make choices. You did, I agreed. And consistently you chose Sabrina. Silence expanded, elastic and uncomfortable. My mother's eyes glazed with a sheen I'd once mistaken for love, then for guilt. Now it just looked like shock. We love you both equally, she managed. Maybe, I said. But you didn't treat us equally. Watches won't fix that. My phone rang, Dr. Strauss. I answered like a lifeline. Housing options in Baltimore? Yes, I'd love to talk now. I turned to the window as I spoke, not to be cruel, but because I was done auditioning for the role of grateful daughter number 2. When I hung up, my parents were still perched on the edge of the couch, as if expecting a softer landing to appear under them. It didn't. I'm moving next week, I said. The fellowship starts in 12 days. Dad nodded too many times. Mom tried on a smile that didn't fit. We'll be at the airport, she said. You don't have to be, I replied. But thank you. They left with the watch still in its box, wrapped again like contrition you could return for store credit. A week later, my apartment was a landscape of cardboard and goodbye. Sabrina sat on the windowsill, chin on her knees, watching me tape the last box shut. I can't believe you'll be in Baltimore, she said. Detroit feels smaller already. You'll be too busy in residency to notice, I teased. Also, call me when your first 27-hour shift eats your soul. I'll prescribe memes. She smiled and then suddenly didn't. I keep rerunning all of it. Mom's voice, Dad's everything. I thought being the chosen one was love. It was just dependence with glitter. You didn't do anything wrong, Bree. I didn't do enough right either, she said. I should have said something years ago. We were kids, I said. We were busy surviving the same house in different weather. She laughed wetly at that, then wiped her eyes. Promise me something. Name it. That we don't let them divide us again. If they start with the compare and conquer, we hang up, we walk out, we send a joint group text that says, nope. Deal, I said, and we shook on it like lawyers with a blood pact. My phone buzzed, an email from Johns Hopkins HR. Housing confirmed. ID badge photo request. Orientation schedule. My future CC'd to me like a certainty. I'm proud of you, Sabrina said, standing to hug me so hard my ribs complained. Dr. Mara Quinn, Patterson Fellow. You burned down the narrative and walked out holding the match. I didn't want to burn it, I said into her shoulder. I just wanted it to stop collapsing on top of me. She pulled back, eyes bright. Either way, you're out. Baltimore's humidity greeted me like a hot towel. On my first morning at Hopkins, I stood outside the research building, staring up at glass and sky and the scaffolding of every possibility I'd starved for. Inside, Dr. Strauss waited with a stack of protocols and a rare, small grin. Ready? She asked. More than I knew, I said. We moved through labs that smelled like ethanol and ambition. I met fellows who had read my paper closely enough to quote my third figure, residents who shrugged off awe and offered coffee, a postdoc who shoved a badge lanyard into my hand and said, Welcome to the part where you become the person the past you needed. At lunch, my phone lit up with a text from Mom. Proud of you. Dad says hi. Let us know if you need anything. The period at the end of anything felt like a hedge. I typed deleted and finally sent thanks. I'm good. It wasn't cruelty. It was a boundary clean, necessary, new. Later that week, Sabrina FaceTimed from a hospital supply closet. Hair wild, voice hoarse. Post call. I think I died twice, she croaked. Also, Mom tried to drop off a little something from a jeweler. I said we're not doing gifts in lieu of accountability. What did she say? That she's learning, Sabrina said. Great. So are we. Final answer. We grinned at each other through the lag. The first true equilibrium we'd ever had. That night I walked home past row houses and flower boxes, the city humming like a heart newly in sinus rhythm. My keys were light in my hand. The future felt heavy and right. I thought of the rooftop banner that hadn't said my name, of the word resourceful rerouted into a crown I'd forged myself, of applause that had sounded like oxygen, and of a woman in crimson who insisted that some truths had to be witnessed to be believed. At my door my phone buzzed one last time. An email from Dr. Linwu. When you're ready, Detroit is too. I smiled and archived it. The point wasn't the offer. It was the abundance. Options, not permission. I set my boxes against the wall and my white coat on a hook near the light. The room was quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't ask you to shrink. I breathed in, out. Somewhere a siren lifted, distant and alive. Recognition had arrived, properly witnessed. The narrative had been corrected, not for them but for me. And for the first time since I could remember, I wasn't anyone's afterthought or alibi. I was exactly what my badge would say in the morning. Mara Quinn, MD, Patterson Fellow. And the rest of the sentence was mine to write.